Good afternoon, good morning, and good evening for those who are joining us from different parts of the world. Today, we are at our final session of our five-part training series on use of low-cost sensor for air quality monitoring in South Asia. I'm Abhinaya Shekhar, and I work as a consulting research fellow with Health Effects Institute. I lead the research and capacity strengthening initiatives that we do across South Asia. Before we get into our session, I would like to briefly introduce Health Effects Institute to everyone. Health Effects Institute is a not-for-profit research organization based in US, and we work on three different verticals: energy, environment, health, and global initiatives. Under our global initiative program, we are active in regions like South Asia and East Africa, and we do a lot of capacity strengthening activities in these region. And this year, we have planned for, we have designed a five-part training series on use of low-cost sensor for air quality monitoring in South Asia. The previous sessions focused on overview of low-cost sensor for air quality monitoring, what are all the available technologies and its applications, guidelines on siting and network design, and also how to develop a large low-cost sensor network from scratch, and how to manage and analyze the data that these sensor networks are providing us. The slides and the recording for these sessions are available on our website. I can share the link with everyone after this. And today's session is focused on global best practices and available toolkits. This session will also be recorded, and you can use the Q&A option function to post your question. I'm very excited for today's session, and the reason for my excitement is we have excellent panel of speakers lined up today to give an overview of the global best practices and the available toolkits. And we have speakers from three different groups. We have Nathalie van Duijvenbode from AirGradient. We have Dr. Alison Huggs joined from Matthijs Brokete from AfriSet. And we have Dr. Ileani Zani from Allin-Wayra. And each speaker will present for 20 minutes. Followed by that, we'll have Q&A. Before we get started, I would like to introduce our first speaker to everyone. Nathalie is a community advocate at AirGradient. She holds a degree in interdisciplinary science with the tracks in political science and sociology and anthropology from Ateneo de Manila University in the Philippines. At AirGradient, she collaborates with communities to identify ways to support their work. She also contributes to outreach efforts, and she's also part of the team that supports the development of open source air quality monitoring toolkit. She is strongly driven for the passion of for making social impact, and she also focuses on amplifying community voices and expanding the access to air quality data. So we are glad to have you here, Natalie, and over to you.
Thank you so much, Abhinaya, for that lovely introduction. Today I will be presenting to you the open source air quality monitoring toolkit. So to quickly go over the agenda, I will be giving an introduction to the toolkit itself, its key features. I will also be quickly going over the content of the toolkit, the structure of the toolkit, as well as the pilot that we conducted with the toolkit and the low-cost sensors in Hanoi in Vietnam. So as we all know, there is a gap when it comes to air quality monitoring, and a lot of traditional monitoring really relies on reference grade equipment, which can be very expensive to purchase and also very expensive to maintain. So it also requires a lot of specialized expertise when it comes to the operation and the data of this equipment. And unfortunately, not a lot of cities have access to these resources, nor local organizations. So as a result, it unfortunately makes very detailed, widespread air quality monitoring difficult to achieve. And it leaves a lot of gaps when it comes to understanding local real-time air quality. So, of course, as a solution to this, we have low-cost air quality monitors. So, low-cost air quality sensors, we all know, are a lot more affordable compared to reference grade equipment and also require less maintenance. So, because of this, it becomes more accessible to a wider range of communities who want to monitor their air quality. And there's also a higher spatial and temporal resolution of air quality data. So because it's so affordable, you can get your hands on more sensors. You can also deploy these sensors and create a bigger network. But unfortunately, um, when it comes to these alternatives, there are still gaps. So the main concern when it comes to low-cost air quality monitors is that there is a concern with measurement accuracy, and there's also a concern when it comes to the complexity of data handling and interpretation. So especially since the bigger your network gets, the harder it gets to kind of maintain that network and to maintain the sensors. So unfortunately, it means that it's still inaccessible for non-experts. So as a solution to this problem, we have developed, together with the UNDP Global Center in Singapore, the open source air quality monitoring toolkit. So this is a free resource that gives communities that have very little to no technical expertise step-by-step guidance on how they could plan, set up, and operate their own air quality monitoring network. So the main goal of this toolkit is to really give communities a very practical way to generate local air quality data, especially where data is limited or unavailable. It also gives users, it simplifies complex technical processes so that anyone, regardless of their background, regardless of their age, whether they're a student, a researcher, someone who has absolutely no experience with air quality monitoring can set up, calibrate, and also maintain their own reliable monitoring network. And most importantly, it really aims to support long-term clean air efforts by helping communities use their data to inform decisions, planning, and advocacy. So now we go into, a more detailed version of who this is for. This can be for government officials at a more national level, people who want to start a countrywide monitoring network to really use the air quality data to support infrastructure improvements or pollution control measures. It can also be for municipalities, for local government leaders, who want to start their own air quality monitoring networks within a citywide scale, and support public health policies and environmental regulations. It can also be for smaller organizations such as grassroots organizations and advocacy groups, NGOs. They can really use the data that the sensors generate to fuel their own awareness campaigns or community initiatives. And lastly, it can also be used for businesses who really want to use the air quality data to improve their own workplace and also support their own corporate social responsibility initiatives. So going over the key features of the toolkit, one thing that we had in mind was capacity building. We really designed it to guide users from square one and to guide people who have no experience at all. So a bit of a background, when we were developing this toolkit, we actually had to make several revisions before we got to the version that we thought was good for the public, just because we really had to put ourselves in the shoes of people who have never set up a monitoring network and also never maybe encountered air quality monitoring before. And then we also have high data quality. So if you decide to use the monitors, if you decide to use the toolkit with the AirGradient monitors, the sensors have reliable data to make sure that you get the most impact out of the data that it's generating. Another very important thing is that it's an affordable solution. So we really always say that we want to make a maximum impact at a low cost. And then a very important aspect of this toolkit is that it's open source. So if you decide to use the toolkit with AirGradient sensors, the sensors itself are open source. So that means that you're not locked into any subscriptions. You don't have to pay any monthly fees to access the data. So you have full ownership of the data. And now we go into the content of the toolkit. So the toolkit itself, you can sort of imagine it as a box, hence the name toolkit. So it includes the air quality monitors. So if you decide to use the toolkit with an air gradient sensor, then a lot of the documentation is tailored for that. But you can also use this toolkit with other monitor types, and I'll go into that a bit later. And then we have the documentation and the guides. So the toolkit itself spans to over 20 chapters across 3 sections, and it covers every single aspect of the monitoring cycle from setting up, from planning before that, and also from continuous operation of the network. And we also have some videos. So um, as I said, the toolkit can be quite long. If you use the PDF version, it is 300 pages long. So we do have videos that are embedded in select chapters of the online version of the toolkit that really highlight, the most important aspects of running the monitoring network. And then we have interactive tools as well. So we don't just have the videos in the online version, we also have some interactive tools where for select chapters, you're asked a set of questions. And then once you give your answers, you get some customized recommendations depending on which chapter you're on. So I can give you a demonstration of that a bit later. But another thing that's included, if you do decide to use the toolkit with the AirGradient monitors, you do get access to the AirGradient dashboard, to the analytics, and also some calibration tools, which really allow you to operate this high-performing network. As I said, it spans to over 3 sections. So we have the planning section, which is really about helping you determine where you want to place the monitors, helping you determine as well what pollution issues exist in your area, and also determine what goals you want to achieve with your network. And then we have a more hands-on interactive section, which is the setup section. So this one really covers how you install the monitors, how you connect it to the dashboard, using very step-by-step clear instructions and also illustrations and the videos, as I mentioned a while back. And then we have operation as well. So this really guides you on how to keep your monitors working well over time, how to make sure that they're maintained, and also understand the data that it's collecting, not just for a personal interpretation, but also for the community. So it really helps you understand how to use things such as charts and maps and make that shareable and tangible to the community so that you can make sure that they benefit from the information as well. And then we go into a more detailed overview of this toolkit. So as you can see, it's more than 20 chapters long. You can see that there are 5 chapters here in the planning section. It goes over defining your air quality project, then into deployment preparation to something more complicated, such as monitor calibration, and then ongoing project monitoring, and of course, something that is often underestimated, community engagement and measuring your impact. So it really helps you see and assess the impact that your network is making in the community that you set it up in. So as you can see here, there is a QR code at the bottom left of this slide. So feel free to scan that, and that brings you to the online version of the toolkit. So as I mentioned before, the toolkit, it's possible to use the toolkit with other sensors. The whole purpose of this toolkit is that it is sensor agnostic and that you can use it with whatever sensor you prefer. And as you can see, a lot of the chapters start to drop off here. And if you would like to kind of fill the gaps with those chapters, we recommend that you sort of refer to the manuals of whatever sensor you're using for your network. And if you would like a more detailed overview as well and guidance on how you can use this with the sensor of your choice, you can refer to this chapter using the toolkit with non-AirGradient monitors in the online toolkit. So now I wanted to give you a bit of an overview of one of the videos in the sections, which I'll be playing.
Want to get serious about understanding air quality? It all starts with being strategic with your location and which monitor to use. Choosing the right spots for your air quality monitor is the absolute foundation of accurate and useful data. Poorly placed monitor, they give you bad data, and bad data leads to wasted time, resources, and misunderstanding of what's really happening with your air. But with careful planning, you can collect data that truly reflects the air quality you want to measure and make a real difference in your community. This video will guide you through the key steps. First, think about your project goals. What are you trying to measure? Regional pollution across the whole city or local hotspots? Your goals dictate where you place your monitor. Then come the practical.
All right, so that was a bit of a snippet of one of the videos for the site and monitor selection chapter. And now I want to give you a bit of a demo of the interactive tool that we have for the site and monitor selection chapter. So as you can see here, you just click Get Started. You can say that your main goal of your network is to raise awareness. You can say as well that you have reliable power available in the area that you want to set the network up in. And then let's say you have Wi-Fi available and you want to monitor in a school or community center. And then you have a budget of over $400 to $600. So as you can see here, it recommends a monitor for your project. It also recommends a set of site selection considerations and a deployment checklist. So the great thing about this is that you can sort of do this on the spot, but if you would like to refer to it again, when you're in the area that you're setting up your network at, then you can always download the checklist and you can refer to that eventually. So now I want to talk about the pilot that was conducted in Hanoi in Vietnam. So just to give you a bit of an overview, we really wanted to test the feasibility of this toolkit together with these sensors. And we wanted to know whether communities could deploy the sensors by themselves without any technical expertise and just through the guidance of the toolkit. We wanted to see how the sensors and the toolkit could be improved, what users could learn from this process, as well as the data generated, and whether these are useful tools in engaging the community on air quality. So that would mean whether they would start advocacy campaigns, be interested in mitigation measures, and also health protection. So overall, the goal was really to engage the community on air quality, using the sensors and the toolkit as the primary tools. So what did we do for this pilot? As I mentioned at the beginning, this was a really collaborative process between AirGradient and UNDP Global Center in Singapore. But if you look at the bigger picture, it was a lot more collaborative than that because UNDP Vietnam was also involved, as well as air quality champions and experts across the world. And for this specific pilot, there were also air quality experts in Vietnam that really helped refine the toolkit, not just translate it to make sure that it was understandable, but also help translate some cultural contexts. And for the sensor deployment, we really made sure to work with 14 participants, and most of these participants were university students who are currently studying environmental management. So they did have a bit of an interest in this, but we also made sure to include several non-specialists in the mix to really test the purpose of this toolkit, which is addressing it to beginners as well. And then we also have, as you can see here, the sensors were deployed in several terrains. So there were indoor and outdoor sensors, and there were also sensors that were deployed in more urban areas and then more rural areas, as you can see on this map. So here's a photo of the cohort. So these are the students working with Professor Lei, who is a big help in this pilot. And some of the sensors, the Open Air Max from AirGradient, and then some deployed over here as well, I believe by the university building. So what did we learn from this pilot? Well, we learned what worked well, and we verified that a lot of participants were able to set up the device without any expert help, which is exactly what we wanted to see. There were some issues when it came to the sensors in terms of power source reliability and Wi-Fi connection issues. But the great thing about this pilot was that the students really got creative when they suggested some improvements for the toolkit. So they suggested more intuitive instruction manuals, as well as a dedicated mobile app, which we currently have running, some features for the mobile app, as you can see here, and a bit of guidance, more guidance when it comes to interpreting data and trends. So a really great thing about this toolkit is that they didn't just have feedback, but it also had a really good impact on their awareness and behavior. So there were shifts in terms of understanding air pollution indices and what they meant. A lot of students reported that before this pilot, air pollution was something that was a bit more abstract to them. They could see that the air was bad, but they didn't really understand the data behind it. So now there was an increased knowledge in local pollution levels, the ability to interpret data and identify patterns. They could really see that certain weather patterns link air quality to certain weather patterns and also to polluting activities. And there was also a kind of shift in mindset, because before they believed that air quality monitoring was really the sole responsibility of government regulators, but eventually saw benefits to community engagement. So they saw how discussing air quality with the community, kind of creating that awareness, could really open a space for them to be part of the solution. And there was also changes in personal action for checking air quality before going outside, using public transport, and also wearing masks. And as I said before, discussing air quality more with friends and family. And yeah, because of this, we kind of learned more how we could take this to scale. So we learned that technical support was something that we could continue to improve. A lot of them had faced had some experience where they needed immediate technical support, but unfortunately, the toolkit could only explain that much. But the great thing is that that's something that we wanted to improve. We wanted to add some chatbots to address this issue, more user-friendly tools as well. By this, they meant more interactive tools, let's say, in chapters, because this is something that we were just getting started as well, and communication and capacity building. So they really thought that the toolkit was a great resource, but they thought that they could maximize and make the most out of the toolkit if there were accompanying workshops, let's say, that would train them on how they could explain the toolkit to to their communities. So yeah, that's all for my presentation. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Nathalie, for giving us the overview of the toolkit that you have developed and how that had also by showing us how that has made some impact among the community. I've also shared a blog regarding the pilot that you shared with us recently. And AirGradient will also be at the Better Air Quality Conference happening next month at Bangkok. They have a pre-event where there is a one-day event where they'll walk us through the toolkit, and they'll also have workshops on sensor calibration and thing. So if you are at the conference and if you're available that time, you can. I think it's based on the registration. You can. You can check if there is seats available to join for the pre-event. Thank you so much, and please wait with us. We'll have some questions at the end. And the next speaker for the day is Dr. Alison Hughes, and joined by Matthijs Brokete. Dr. Alison Hughes is the head of Department of Physics and a senior lecturer at University of Ghana. He has over 21 years of experience in research, teaching, and consulting in atmospheric physics. His research focuses on field calibration and performance evaluation of low-cost sensors, low-cost air quality sensor. He's also a head of air quality lab and services and serves as a facility manager at AfriSet. AfriSet is an air quality sensor evaluation and training center for West Africa, located within the Department of Physics, University of Ghana. He'll also say more about the training center and sensor evaluation center with us. He has also published several articles in peer-reviewed journals. He'll be joined by Mr. Matthijs Brokete, who is a research analyst at AfriSet. Matthijs leads the training session and workshops on sensor evaluation, calibration, data pre-processing, and statistical analysis, which equips the stakeholders with a tool to interrupt and act on air quality data. We are very glad to have both of you with us today. Dr. Allison, over to you.
Okay, thank you very much. Let me just share my screen. Can you see it now?
No, we can't see your screen.
Okay, so share.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, we can see.
Yeah, so thank you very much for the introduction. We are happy to be a part of this series of workshop you have run. And so thanks for the invitation. So today we will share with you the AfriSet experience. And AfriSet is just about, so I start with telling you about some of the sources we have in Africa, Sub-Saharan Africa. I believe you have some of the same sources in Asia. And these are some of the reasons why we need to understand the level of pollutions and how it impacts the health of our populace. Of these sources, we have a unique one, which is dust from the Sahara, which comes usually in the dry season. And so what we set up to do was to set up an evaluation air quality sensor evaluation facility here in West Africa. This facility is dedicated solely to evaluation of local sensors. You agree with me that these sensors are not really just plug and play devices. They also need to be understood by the population. And so we set up this sensor evaluation center to be able to look at how these sensors, which are usually manufactured outside of Africa, how they behave. And then also we wanted to also serve as a training hub here in West Africa. The first thing we did was to come up with a standard operating procedure, which we had vetted by 3 well-known air quality evaluation groups, the AQ-Spec in California, Air Paris in France, and also NALU in Norway. And so once they have vetted, we knew we had a good SOP to run with. Usually we don't purchase sensors. We approach manufacturers to send us their sensors, and then we evaluate it. So we set up to evaluate 10 sensors type each year. And we also put all our evaluation reports is open to the public on our website, which is afriset.org. It's in both French and English. So what is the background? We started off with getting a reference monitor, and then we saw that we could leverage the use of the reference monitor to be able to look at how these sensors perform in this part of the world where we have different type of sources from where they are manufactured. And so this is our beginning. Currently, you see now we have so many sensors there on the platform. The next objective was to train and build capacity, because that is one of what we lack here in Sub-Saharan Africa. And so we run training workshops every year for participants across West Africa. And all our training materials are free on our website and also on our YouTube channel. Our third objective is to promote long-term sustainability of this center. We are currently being funded by the Clean Air Fund, but as we all know, those who gave the grant cannot fund us, forever. And so what we try to do is form partnerships. We are open to collaborations, and also we are now trying to monetize some of our services. We are also trying to extend consulting services to others who will need this work so that we keep the center open. Also, we hope to this year replicate our center in another region in Africa. We feel that we have a good blueprint and that we want to extend it to either the southern part, the northern part, or the central part of Africa or East Africa. So this is just an overview of what we do at AfriSet, and I will now hand over to Matthias, who will take you through what we do in terms of sensor evaluation and calibration at AfriSet. Okay, over to Matthias.
Hi, good day, everyone. My name is Matthias, as Dr. Allison mentioned. So I will take you through our experience in sensor evaluation and calibration. So these are some of the reference monitors we use here: the Teledyne T640, the Ecotech S40 for oxides of nitrogen, and then 2B-Tech for ozone. And these are some of the low-cost sensors that we've evaluated at our facility over the years. They are more, but we can't put everything on the slide. So, yeah, so our standard operating procedure talks about the way or how we do the evaluation at the facility, which first require that every manufacturer has to bring at least 3 identical sensors before you can do your evaluation. So to know that the sensors are even doing well amongst themselves, before you do it, compare it with the reference monitor. So when we receive the sensors, we do some pre-deployment checks in the lab to ensure they are working before we install them. And our evaluation period takes 6 weeks in the dry period and then 6 weeks in the wet period, ensuring that the dry period will capture the harmattan, which has to do with the dust inflow from the Saharan Desert into western part of Africa. So after this period of evaluation, we do the data analysis, and then reports and put them on the platform, our website, where everyone can get access to. So, and first thing you have to look at the out-of-the-box components, the things that you have to compare if the things are intact. And then you go through the procedure that the manual comes with. You register the sensor onto whatever dashboard or portal that they want you to put them on. Then you deploy them and also go ahead and do some post-deployment checks to see if the sensors are actually working during this evaluation period. So most of the sensors comes with different sensing units. So we have, for particulate matter, we have the planter, we have OPC from AlphaSense. We have other ones from Sensirion, some ECs also for gases. So in the first part, before you do installation or when we receive the sensors, you have to check the out-of-the-box component. So using this as an example, the AirGradient, this is one of their models. That's the cellular model. So you check if it comes with all the required parts that you need to install them or put it to installation or evaluation. Then after checking all those things in the manual and ensuring that you have them at the lab, you then do a pre-deployment check. So that is usually between 24 to 48 hours before you do the deployment. You ensure that the sensors are assembled completely as stated in the manual, and then you check if the sensors can be powered on. If there's any sound that needs to be, you have to hear before you know that the sensors are on, and also follow whatever steps to connect the sensors to the dashboard. So each manufacturer has a step to connect it to the dashboard or any portal that they have set up for the user. So as part of the pre-deployment checks, we also ensure that the sensors are visible online and make sure that they are transmitting data. So we can collect this data, evaluate them within the lab, and then ensure that everything is consistent before we put it outside in our field to start the evaluation. So after the pre-deployment checks in the lab, we then take the sensors to our field to install them. And we have to make sure there is enough airflow, which you could see at the site. There is enough airflow there. And also make sure the height placement is at least more than 1.5 meters. Ensure the sensors are not at places that will block airflow or there are any things that will alter the temperature and relative humidity of the sensors, which can affect their readings. So the deployment as well, you need to ensure that you don't put the sensors out at places that are risk of hazard, so that you wouldn't put yourself in some situation that you wouldn't like. So these are some additional components that usually you have to look out for. When the sensors can use a local SIM card, you have to purchase them yourself. Look at the mounting poles and then zip ties. And if you have to do extension cables to connect the sensors to power. So after the evaluation, after the deployment of the sensors, ensuring that they are taking data, now you go to evaluation. When you get your data, you have to do evaluation. So these are some of the important metrics to look out for when you are doing the evaluation. The coefficient of determination, which is the R-squared, correlation. We look at the mean absolute error, bias error, and then some outliers. And also we consider data recovery, which is one of the important things before you do any evaluation, ensuring that you have enough data to make some meaning or some inferences from the data or the sensor you have. So at least a 75% data recovery from the sensor is very optimal for any sensor evaluation. Then after we look at the data recovery, we now look at the performance of the sensors now amongst themselves. So that's why we need at least 3. So you do the intra-unit measurement variability among the sensors themselves before you now compare them to the reference monitor, looking at the mean, the standard deviation, and the median. You also look at the linearity of the sensors with the reference monitor. So we use some scatter plots with the coefficient of determination to tell whether the sensors are correlating well with the reference monitor. So we calculate these metrics to ensure that, or to know, or to tell whether the sensors are good, they have strong correlation with the reference monitor, they have weak or they have moderate correlation with the reference monitor. We also look at the diurnal variation of these sensors, how they track the data from the reference monitor. So usually we have them in a wet period and a dry season. And you could see in the dry period, as I mentioned earlier, we have this episode, which is the harmattan dust. And that's one of the things that, or that period where the sensors find it difficult getting the actual pollution level, and it can misinterpret whatever readings you have. So look at this period in our evaluation report for people to know how these sensors that they're going to use perform during these seasons. So these are some of the matrices that you have in our reports. It tell you the R-square and then the other error measurements, the MAE, MBE, to know whether sensors are overestimating the data produced by the reference monitor or they are underestimating, where you can see the positive MBEs and negative MBEs. Then after the evaluation, you have to look at now how to calibrate the sensors, because usually the sensors are not performing to how you expect them to perform usually in the dry season. So you want to now do some correction to move the sensors from that performance to a very good performance as compared to the reference monitor. And this is because most of the sensors, the readings are distorted due to the high relative humidity, and then this is not dust events we experience in the global south, especially in West Africa. So without calibrating, you would end up seeing the sensor giving you some wrong readings, which would not be reliable for some risk assessment. So in here in our lab or at AfriCert, we use statistical models and machine learning models to do this calibration. And our study over the period has shown that, yes, the sensors performance vary among themselves. So we have different sensors performing differently when you compare them with a reference monitor. So our correction is to ensure that all the sensors are performing almost the same as a reference monitor. Then you have trust in these sensors and use them for any work you are using it for. So in our seasonal correction, there is we look at wet season, we look at dry season, and then you look at the harmattan and non-harmattan season. So there are three models that we want to look at: the wet season, the dry, and the dry, which consists only the harmattan, and the dry, which consists or does not have the harmattan in there. So this plot is a sample of some of the things you are doing, showing how when you do correction, the calibrated sensor is a broken line, is tracking the harmattan better than the raw sensor, which is the blue line. So this one is also for the dry season, the one without the harmattan. You can also see how the dotted line or the broken line is tracking the FEM or the reference monitor, which is the red line, as compared to the blue line. And the errors are in the table at the other side. Also, this is for the wet period, where you see that, yes, when you correct these sensors, they perform better than just using a raw sensor readings for your work. So in our approach, we intend to provide the correction factors for all the individual sensors that we've evaluated at our facility. And we do that for both the wet and the dry period, where you can go to our website, and then if you want to know the calibration factors you need for this particular sensor that we have evaluated, you can have access to it. You can even put in your data, and then it will generate the calibrated data for you on our website. Yeah, so in all these things, we've come a long way, and then these are some of the partners that we usually acknowledge in our presentations, because they've been very instrumental in our work over the years. We have AQSpec, we have NILU, Columbia University, EPARIF, and then the Ghana EPA, as well as the Clean Air Fund. So thank you very much. And then this QR code, if you scan it, it takes you to our website, and you have access to all the reports that we have evaluated so far. and the aspect where you can look at your calibration. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Alison and Nathalie, for giving us an overview of both your team and the work that you're doing in the region. As Alison rightly mentioned, given the most of the sources of pollution is common with respect to Africa and South Asia, and also with respect to the climatic condition, I think the work that you have done on understanding how different sensor performs in different season will be really valuable for those who are going to start the work of monitoring in South Asia. Thank you so much for sharing your insights. We'll take the questions at the end. Please stay on the call. And our next speaker for the day is Dr. Ilyani Izani. I'm very excited to have her here for today's session. She is a very good friend of mine, and she is currently a member of scientific committee for the Allin-Wayra, which is a small sensors for atmospheric science initiative under the International Global Atmospheric Chemistry Project. She is currently a senior lecturer in environmental and occupational health at the Faculty of Medicine and Health Sciences, University Putra, Malaysia. She also serves on the scientific committee of iLeaps under the Future Earth. Her current work focuses on mobile and wearable low-cost sensor for exposure assessment and multi-stressor studies involving air pollution, urban heat, and environmental noise. She is also actively involved in international collaborations on mobile sensor deployment, field validation, and route-based monitoring, and conducts knowledge sharing sessions on practical mobile sensing applications for research and community monitoring. We are very glad to have you here. Ilyani, over to you.
Thank you, Abhinaya, for a very kind of introduction. And I would like to thanks to SEI as well for the invitation, especially to Allin-Wayra. Let me just check the just to share the slides first. Right. Okay. Okay. So what's it? Okay. So you can see my screen now, hopefully.
Yes, we can see your screen.
Perfect. And yeah, again, thank you for the introductions about myself. And today it's a very honor to talk about interesting topic. And also I would like to share on what Allin-Wayra is and what to represent on this scientific committee, apart from the work that I'm doing at the moment on the mobile monitoring. And this is what things I'm going to share with all of you. And yeah, we'll talk about the sensors, the needs of the collaborations that initiated by our committee. And it's expanding now for that committee to kind of like invite to all of especially the experts as well to join the committee. Also, I will share some of the study cases that I've done with the on the mobile monitoring, and also how this can be leveraged to the engagement on the application of the low-cost sensor. And these are when we talk about the applications of indicators, how bad the pollutions or it's especially the air quality. Back then we just use maybe it's the application on looking at the biological living things, such as what we've seen on the screen, the birds. Has been as part of indicator, the sooty birds that indicate back then in the early 20th century, using these indicator of how bad the air quality that time. So it is just things that we are using back in that time. And but currently nowadays there'll be like questions would be like, who actually measure the air quality today? And I would like to have you, the audience participants for today's session, if you could like, just I think Abhinaya will share the link also, if you could like just snap this just for us to know for in terms of like what like you understand in terms of who are measuring the air quality today, then I will give the result towards end of our session. And right, so I hope that you get the link and you just like write things and stuff. So we will share towards the end of the session today. Right, hope you get the scan code. Right, and when we talk about the measurement as well, it's been distributed across many groups. It doesn't matter, like let's say the previously it's been like an interest, especially to the scientists or like to researchers, and also like to stakeholders and the NGOs and activists as well. So it needs to like, the story needs to be going on when we talk about the measurement. And when we have the options with the abundance currently, the applications on the low cost sensor, it can be like democratized as air monitoring. And the thing is, when we talk about this, the measurement, people will talk about validity and how it will represent the issues and how it can be compared. So comparison should be made as well. Like, let's say if you have the like research grade sensors and how it can be validated. And with Allin-Wayra, we have this committee group where we use these kind of like collaboration through all like representative of these experts all around the world, where we look into these kind of like to advocates to connect the global small sensors efforts in different parts of the world. And towards the end, we wanted to build the community of practice for especially the responsibility of the low-cost sensor usage. And Allin-Wayra also is actually part of the IGET projects. And we try to expand from time to time. And this is what we are doing apart from like we actually doing like more like lots of like online workshops. And so we conduct like expert webinar series, and we conduct as well like sessions, conference sessions, sprinter meetings, such as in 2 series of EGU, European community, like the union for the conference. So we conducted last year, and this year we will have another EGU side meeting. And also apart from that, these like experts as well, we try to co-develop open guidance resources. So these are examples of open guidance that we have collaboration with the Citizen Science Global Partnership, where we publish this particulate matter and air sensors on how like this citizen science on community of the science or like the public to use like the practical guidelines on how they can use small sensors. And also there are several online webinars and workshops that we conducted online, and also in different other parts in the world. And you can see at the right-hand side, one of the collaboration with OpenAQ. It's like, we conducted in Latin America, so that's why it's like in Latino. And also, when I talk about this, how like the applications of low-cost sensors, where they have this the committee that look after, and applications evolve from the static monitorings, and to look into how the influence of, let's say whatever emission sources, and how it represent to like, it can represent the big picture of maybe pollutions that we wanted to present in different parts of the world. And another application would be on the like how we can use the sensor as a mobile sensor, like how we can use as one sensor to, let's say, as committee-based monitoring. And these are the best practice of like things that, of course, like we heard about from two presenters, and they have like different like kind of like, of course, main of like the examples that been used. It's more to like static measurements, more to like looking at the maybe one's representation and stuff like that. So it's all like based on the fit for the purpose, whatever purpose that they wanted to look at. And also, we look into the pillars of collocations and calibration, very important. That one will reflect to these validations of the low-cost sensor versus the reference grade instruments. And that one will give more kind of like representative of the measurements in that certain areas or locality. And the correction as well is very important. So I will not dive deep into that because like already been covered by the second presenters. And QA/QC protocol is very important, and also transparent reporting. And the thing is that when we talk about transparent reporting and the application in different parts of the world, such as in the global south, it's like why we have the local sensor. That will be the question. And of course, it will like try to fit into like, maybe that area has very lack of reference kind of like stations, or maybe it's not representative to like, bigger aerial scale. But what would be like how we can like show the data to everyone and the community to accept the data, so that reflects to environmental justice. And this one of the case study that we conducted in Kuala Lumpur. So we look into how like this simulation of measurement if you are an active commuter. So active commuter could be like if you are someone that wanted to commute from one place to another place by walking, or maybe like cycling and stuff like that. But we try to simulate using a walking sensor. And of course, when we wanted to like looking at this kind of like measurements, we need to have a side-by-side monitoring with a reference instrument. So we have this one sensor, two sensors actually on loan by one of our collaborators in the UK. So they sent us these two sets of instruments of Atmo tubed. And also we have our own TSI research grade instruments to measure a side pack to measure PM 2.5. So we took these instruments and we walked along a walking route in a city center of Kuala Lumpur, stretching about I think 3 kilometers. And we took about like almost like half an hour in terms of like when we reached to the end point. And when we talk about, let's say, in different, like this one, we look into the application in the urban area, where like in this kind of like city center, for example, in the Southeast Asia, in Kuala Lumpur itself, it's a very car-centric city. And although we have like this, we could see this like the train been used, but yeah, it's more like cars. And we try to simulate at the call that one of the route. And another like the motivation of doing this is, apart from looking at how measurement can be done when we walk with the sensor, we also the main motivation is actually looking at the exposure. So when we talk about air pollution, of course, it will like make the people will have more concern if it will affect their health. So how far like these measurements can estimate the exposure? That would be the question. So in terms of when we wanted to estimate the exposure, the measurement should be very kind of like showing the realistic way. And of course, it should be like validated and like corrected. So because that one will reflect into that how, like, let's say in this case, we look into the inhalation dose of a commuter or like pedestrian. So that is the main kind of like when we talk about the application in terms of like estimation of health effects. So this is an example of showing one of my students working with one of sensor, and also actually apart from that, we try to have another co-exposure of the heat. So he also wearing like one of the like heat sensor. So he worked together in the city of Kuala Lumpur, and also you could see here he kind of like wearing like a front camera so that he can like estimate how many cars that like he's facing when he walked on the one street. So we found that the measurement, we tried to compare, if you could see at the blue line versus orange line. So the research grade sensor is kind of like a bit of course, it's overestimate the low cost sensor, and tubes, for example, it's underestimates the measurements. And it's about like we calculate the estimation about 35%. So it's really give us the kind of like the lesson about how we can apply the walking sensor, because it's totally different when you bring your sensors in the field. And looking at this, the street, like walking with sensors, we learn a lot about the response time lag, because like when we know that the sensor can pick up the let's say in this case particulate matter. But when it comes to like in the urban area with the street canyon effects and wind effects inside the local scale, so it can like it can give effects in terms of how the sensor picked up the measurements, and also how we also position our sensors, very important. And with these summer sensors, we can set the time resolution in a very small time resolution. Let's say we'll measure in 1 second. We can see the noisy measurements and stuff like that. But then the question would be like how we try to like correct this measurement. And apart from that, humidity effects also play important role, especially when you measure in tropical conditions. In this case, in Kuala Lumpur, very humid, very high temperature and stuff like that. So the impact would be like in the urban area with a walking sensor that would be given different stories. And we could see the spikes and signals with the short peaks, and which shows the hotspot. So if we measure in one street or one location, for example, with walking sensors, we need to know the hotspot itself. And towards the end, it will reflect the patterns and the values. So the thing is like, of course, in the field behavior, it's totally different in the lab behavior. And this is just after we another things when we conduct this measurement and stuff like that. So we believe that we wanted to share like the science in terms of like the application of low cost sensors, and we shift to another like case study on how like powerful like the application itself. So we try to compare like the application to the children, because we know that they've been exposed everywhere or like everything all at once. It depends on like there are many kind of like the influence in terms of like their heights difference and the breathing zones nearby to the tailpipe emissions and different land use and stuff like that within a school compound. And this is what we've done. We use this still using site packs and other instruments as well. But then we wanted to turn into a story. So these are what the measurements that we conducted. We wanted to like show the evidence of science on how we can conduct a hands-on learning experience using low-cost sensor. And we try to kind of like make a fictional kind of like character of students, school children wanted to like, have this kind of a condition. Again, health effects plays important role, because like when we talk about health effects, the receptors or like, community will have this kind of like shows the concern. So we put this in a picture, and also we ask like the students to become air pollution detective using this theory of planned behavior, where the attitude and behavior, perceived behavior, will be changed once like, something happened to themselves. And we have this inspiration through one of the clean air detective program. So we developed this module, and we translate into the modules of air pollution detective in one of the school in Putrajaya in Malaysia. So we have this, we gave like information to them, and we picked them from non-science background, because we wanted for them to like understand about like the application of science, where we wanted to make sure that it can be applied to everyone. So we have this Plume Labs. We receive on loans from Plume Labs, where we conduct these air pollution detectives, and we have this kind of like give them to like, play around these sensors and just, jot down things and stuff. And we asked in the final question, we asked them to kind of like draw which is the best route for them to enter the like school without like entering at the front gate, because school, the parents will drop off the school children and stuff like that, will pick up the pollution and stuff. So they have this idea where they put this. Okay, the school, they suggest that that Maurice, the fictional character, need to enter via at the back gate. So that it's really interesting to look at this application. And we asked about engagement and enjoyment when they have this kind of hands-on activity, and other hands-on low-cost sensor, for example. So towards the end, like, I mean, of course, it's not fit for purpose design. It's really important more than the device price. We know that low-cost sensor is very high. It's like high demand nowadays, and in terms of like the selection itself from the user is very important. Like, and it will reflect to their intentions, what they wanted to use, what would be the story of like if they are using these sensors, and the calibration, of course, very important. And the story base, for example, that we use approach with Maurice case, and it helps the students from non-science background to stay engaged, and they can apply when they learn to like into the real life problems. When they like go outside, they've seen like, okay, something wrong in the skies, then they wanted to check something, they can use low-cost sensor or like something like that. And with the limited time and with the simple sensors, students are still able to collect and understand the use of air quality data. Then they can recommend the safer walking routes from our like the approach that we conduct. And towards the end, most importantly, when of course, it can give big impact when we apply the application of low-cost sensor, but when we pair with accessibility with good science, and it's very important to share the best practice with the community and also with others, maybe the groups of researchers, and also importantly the stakeholders, and how this can be applied to the impact of the guidelines and stuff like that. So I think before I end the session, I would like to see the maybe from the words clouds that been generated by our audience today. Just stop share first. Sure, let's see. Right. So we could see that who's measuring? Yes, professionals, researchers, WMO, World Health Organization, government. Yes, everyone measure air quality nowadays. But then towards the end is up like it's all like based on what the intention and how we can leverage the measurements on different applications, whether they're using low-cost sensor or research-grade sensors. So thank you for your engagement from the audience today. So I think that's all from me. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Eliani, for this wonderful talk, and thank you for showing us different case studies. How, other than the ambient air monitoring, how was it used in like mobile monitoring, and how it was used for the community monitoring. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. I request the participants. So since we have time, I request the participant to unmute yourself and ask the questions. So I have a question like, will the recording and will be shared? Yes, the recordings of this meeting and the slides will be shared on our website. I have also shared the link in the chat box. I can share that again. If anyone have any question, please unmute yourself and ask. And before, if I have two questions for the speakers, like one on the community engagement and two on building the technical capacity, because all these three speakers highlighted like how the low cost sensor can be used for community engagement. So my question is that, like, for the speakers, like, what are all the challenges that you faced, when you reached out to a community to install a low cost sensor and educate them on different types of pollutant, like, because it is very hard to explain what is particulate matter, what is gaseous pollutant. So, and also in terms of acceptance to install the low cost monitoring device at their home, like what are all the challenges that you faced and how did you how did you overcome that? And my second question is on like all the three groups, for example, the Allin-Wayra and also AfriSet is largely investing on capacity building and also conducting series of training programs. So in terms of personal planning, if you have to from going a procurement of sensor to clear analysis of data set, what types of technical skills do we need to ensure that we successfully use the low cost sensors? Yeah. Anyone would like to go first?
Yeah, I think I will go first. Thank you, Abhinaya. Really interesting questions. I will answer two questions. Right. The first questions, yes. Reaching out to the committee, yeah, and also how the acceptance, and in this case, the case study that I shared with the school children. Of course, finding the right school or like engagement or like how they can be cooperation with us is a challenge. And apart from that, another things would be the financial as well. So we start actually via our STEMs program with with our university, and we start small with the school children, and we get to know the school teacher. We approach them and we gave a story about the STEM application, on how we can use a sensor, a technology, to kind of like as a part of solution, and at the same time we'll give awareness to people that let's say especially from the school children that has no background of science. And that's how we do it, like a series of meeting and stuff like that to explain, especially to the principal. And that's how we try to tackle the challenge. And also coming to the second question about the like how, let's say, the Allin-Wayra, for example, presented about Allin-Wayra, what's next for us. And we've done like, I think, yeah, in terms of like sharing session and stuff like that, building capacity. And the next would be, yeah, of course, we have this a set of like the experts that we can offer, especially on like to kind of like use the expertise on let's say on the validation of the sensors and stuff like that, and then sharing session, and also how this can kind of like reflects on the policy and guideline in different parts of the world, especially in the global south, where the acceptance of low-cost sensor from different governments is totally different stories. So we would hope to have this kind of like kind of like acceptance, and also like a bit of like more to like science, and also to reach out to community, so that we can tackle like whatever solution through the policy once they have certain measurements and guidelines and stuff like that.
Thank you, Liani. That is wonderful to know. Nathalie and Allison, do you have any final remarks? Yeah, we also have one question from Any10. Can you unmute yourself and ask your question?
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone, depending on our area. Please, can you hear me clearly?
Yeah,
Can you hear me clearly?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, thank you very much, and I'm privileged to be here. I have maybe just 2 or 3 questions, and I really enjoyed the program and all the aspects of low-cost sensor. I just want to ask, based on the challenges that how did they manage the challenge that has to do with data transfer? Because I know most of the low-cost sensor, when it comes to the battery, it's a little bit challenging. So how did they manage to meet up the data transfer in everyday activity? And also when it comes to the power supply, most of the low-cost sensor based on the power, I know some people use the solar, and maybe where you install it, there is no house around the place if it's an outdoor monitoring, or maybe on the road, like the one they showed, the person, it was at the back, like that one, it has to do like a walk. But when it has to do with an outdoor, and where there is no charging, and to get a solar panel, and how did they manage to overcome the power supply? And even if there is what's it called, for solar panel installed with it, because if I can remember vividly, I also use low cost sensor, which is Dilos DC1700 for one of my research, my PhD work. And during the winter period, it was not really easy, because even the solar panel could not really charge the battery that was installed with. So we have to go to the field every day to collect the data because of the expenses. So that's just the 2 aspects on the challenges. And the other one that is the community awareness, because I know it's a little bit difficult, like you explained, within OPM 2.5 this. So I will just need more maybe explanation, or how I can know more about that. And the last one is I don't mind maybe if there is there can be any form of collaboration on how to use machine learning in predicting further. For example, if you have a 1 year or 2 years data with meteorological, like humidity, all those ones, how can you use it to further predict? Because monitoring, I know, is not easy. It requires time, money, and funds. So, and as we are in the AI era, we also need to see how we can move forward in using the machine learning, the artificial intelligence, and be able to predict. So I don't mind maybe like that one collaboration in that. And in case if there is any other further training on the how low-cost sensor can be further used for the community, policy management, and also the stakeholders that will be able to help the regulation of air quality management as a whole. Thanks.
Thank you so much for those questions. I think those are all excellent questions, and thank you for your suggestion on a future training program. Allison, you have any thoughts on any 10 questions?
Yeah, thank you. So in terms of deployment of sensors in communities, we actually work with other partners. So we work with the Environmental Protection Authority of Ghana, who have mapped out, areas where we don't have any monitoring. And so we work with them to deploy sensors in those communities. And what happens is that a lot of community engagements with opinion leaders in the particular communities so that they get the buy-in and they will be able to share with the community. And so we also, so that is with respect to deployment outside from our facilities. All right. And then, but for most of our work, we do our evaluation here at the University of Ghana, where we have the facilities. But there are times that after we've completed our evaluations, some sensors manufacturers would like to donate these sensors, and so we move them into the communities so that we get more data, and then these get more understanding of the level of pollution in the areas. In terms of training, we do realize that in this part of our work, there's a lot of interest now for local sensors. But as I mentioned earlier, these sensors are just not a plug and play devices. You need to understand how they operate. You need, I think Matthias took us through how to ensure that you are getting the data. And in terms of, I think the questioner asked about how we ensure we get quality data. It ensures we must be able to have a reliable, internet service, especially for sensors that do not have, it's not GSM that, so we have sensors that use Wi-Fi, GSM, and then also in terms of storage, some of the sensors don't have storage, so it goes to a cloud, and you must be able to download the data. And where we have erratic, power disruption, we have to ensure that we maybe deploy sensors that utilize solar energy. And then also in terms of the training, we run training every year. We've planning another one. I think the one who asked the question, if you can get to us, we've had participants from Nigeria. I don't know whether that's where you are located. So if you get in touch with us, we could be able to extend an invitation. We have limited funds, but what we try to do is to run our training for 5 days, and we bring down participants from across West Africa, and we put them into hotels, feed them, and the rest of the things, and we train them on data analysis. And one of the questions you asked is about machine learning techniques. We also train participants on that. So we are available if you need any assistance. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Allison. Anything? Please unmute yourself.
Thank you very much, sir. I am really grateful. Yeah, I'm presently at the University of Venda, South Africa here, but actually from Nigeria. So maybe I'll get in touch as you said. Thank you.
That's wonderful.
Okay.
Thank you so much. Yeah. Yeah, Allison?
Yes, I think I'm done. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Nathalie and Elani, do you have any thoughts?
Yeah, maybe on the question that was asked about community engagement. I think that is a really it seems like a simple solution, but it is really a matter of, I think, trial and error, and it really depends on the audience that you want to address. It's something that we have available too on our toolkit. It's one of the last chapters on community engagement. So it really guides you onto strategizing how you want to communicate the data that is being generated by your monitors, whether you want something more of a visual approach or something that is more health focused. It really depends on the audience that you're addressing. And I think it really is, like I said, a matter of trial and error in terms of which communication channels work best, and what you find works best in the end. So that's pretty much all I wanted to add on that.
Thank you so much. I really thank the time and effort all the three speakers have put in for today's session. And we, from HCI, we truly appreciate the commitment. And I also thank the participants who joined us throughout the series and made this conversation very engaging. We also look forward to organize more such training sessions in the future, as continuous learning is something which is exciting in this journey, and we can learn it together. If there are any specific topics or areas that you would like us to cover, please don't hesitate to write to us. Your suggestions really matters, and we'll be very happy to plan and design the session accordingly. We hope that we learn, grow, and collaborate with you all soon. And all the slides and recording of this training series will be made available on our website. Thank you all for joining us today. Bye bye. Have a great day.
Thank you. Bye,
Thank
everyone.
Bye.
Thank
Bye,
you.
everyone.
Take care.